Let's bring in Michael Graham and Molly Hooper in Washington. Michael is a conservative political columnist, and Molly is a congressional reporter for The Hill. Welcome to you both. I always enjoy the M&M show, Molly and Michael. All right, so much to talk to you about. This week is one of the first tests, Molly, of the president's war room, which he's assembling to counter the Russia probe. What challenges do you think the president has already created for that effort?
Well, exactly. The president has already created some problems. Earlier today, we were supposed to see these war room communicators out on the warpath, trying to preempt Comey's testimony on Thursday, basically to discredit or to make him look like he wasn't really on the job and he should have been fired in the first place. I mean, he should have been fired in the first place. But then President Trump goes out and starts this Twitter war with the mayor of London. And completely took over the conversation and took over the headlines and pretty much pulled the rug out from his own message that his strategic communications team was trying to put out there.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, what does a communicator do when faced with that kind of challenge? When you have the commander-in-chief tweeting in the wake of a terror attack, I mean, is there a counter message that is able to be sent out there to try and perhaps smooth things over a bit?
I spent part of my misspent youth as a campaign worker, manager, PR guy. I would, if I were in that White House, I would be, passing out resumes. I mean, what can you do when there's a tweet grenade thrown into the comms room every single day? There's nothing they can do. And so, you watch people tap dancing behind the podium and then you think to yourself, wow, boy, they look terrible. Look at the hand they've been dealt. So I have no suggestion until the president solves his #1 problem, which is the president. The staff can only do so much. I mean,
is there a thought, though, Michael, that perhaps this is exactly what some in the West Wing want to see, is a very combative, true to the same kind of off-the-cuff remarks and rhetoric that we heard during the campaign in the West Wing now from the president at a time when, he is trying to maintain and retain that connection with the base?
Well, look, the fighting is not the problem. The problem is not being combative. The problem is the fights that he's picking. The horrific attack in London adds to the narrative that President Trump has been trying to say, which is that the politically correct, political insiders will not handle the real problem. There's a real problem inside of Islam. There's a civil war going on there. It's, it reaches out to us, and we need to take action. He could really make a strong case. I don't happen to agree with it, but he can make the case about how 90-day restrictions from these targeted countries that, by the way, were targeted by President Obama and Congress before. He can make that case, but he doesn't make that case. So it's not the fight, it's that he has a chance to fight, a fight where he can win, and instead he finds the meanest bull out in the bullfights and jumps in and says, let's have at it.
Yeah. So, Molly, in the meantime, we have this thing called Infrastructure Week, as some are dubbing it.
What? Yeah, Infrastructure Week, that's going on this week?
Right, so what audience is the White House trying to reach with this, you think?
Well, again, they obviously aren't getting through to Congress, and Congress is, I know that from the Republican lawmakers I talked to, probably the most stress-free week and a half that they've had on the job thus far was when the president was overseas and didn't tweet at all. Because the whole problem is that you have these themes like Infrastructure Week. The president is making efforts to move forward with his health care bill in the Senate. Also, the tax reform is going on behind the scenes. But at the same time, all these things are happening. He's stepping again on his own message by blowing up the Twitterverse with these issues that really don't have anything to do with his agenda going forward. And members of Congress are worried about 2 years from now, or a year and a half from now, when they're up for re-election, and they need to get stuff done, and they can't just, be responding to what he's saying on Twitter. In fact, Speaker Paul Ryan pretty much said the other day, I'm not going to answer anything else that the president says on Twitter.
Molly,
a few Republicans are saying that.
Molly, I just want to ask Molly, what I'm hearing hearing from people is they look up on TV and they see two of their key leaders in the Senate, Senator Warner of Virginia, Senator Burr of North Carolina, and they're not talking about either infrastructure or taxes or anything else. They're talking about this side stuff, and that calendar's, clicking down. 53 work days, I think, for the U.S. Senate, 43 for the House, if I recall correctly. That's all the time they've got, and they're watching these two key people wasting time talking about or not wasting time, but on this issue that's nothing to do with advancing the Republican agenda.
Well, interestingly enough, one of those key people, Richard Burr, said over the past recess that he doesn't think that we'll see a health care bill in 2017, contrary to one of the GOP leadership folks, John Cornyn, who said he thinks he could see something before July. But, I mean, Richard Burr is caught up in the whole Russia probe because there's all these other issues that are taking over on the Senate side and the House side that have nothing to do with moving this, the economic reforms that President Trump is talking about on the campaign trail forward to improve job situations for Americans. And that's what Republicans who are running for re-election are a little worried about, because how is the economy doing for the people in their districts? Are their voters doing better than they did 2 years ago? That's what's going to be going through voters' minds. And if we're still talking about Russia and Comey and all these things, and who knows what else next, that won't do very many favors for the Republicans who want to have the majority again.
All right, so I'm going to follow up, Molly, with another question about Russia. So we've got the Comey hearing, of course, on Thursday, but what role do you expect Wednesday's hearing with top intelligence and justice officials to play?
Oh, that's going to be very interesting. And I believe Mike Rogers, NSA, the head of the NSA, is going to be there. And basically the questions they're going to be asked, did the president ask you in so many words to pull back on this investigation into Flynn, or to take off the heat? And so that will be very interesting. But again, it's sort of a side issue. Right now, Congress is trying to move health care, tax reform, and all these things. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. That will be interesting to see how it plays into the next day's hearing.
Yeah, and what do you think about that, Michael?
I think that the talk about what President Trump may have done after he was in the White House, after the alleged collusion, if it ever happened. This is the reason why having this investigation with this special counsel is such a problem for the White House. You've already seen reports that the special counsel is talking now about what Mike Flynn did with Turkey. What does Turkey have to do with colluding Russia election? Nothing. But this is how it works. We saw it with Bill Clinton. He started off looking into an Arkansas land deal and ended up looking into Monica Lewinsky's closet. And this is you never know where these things are going to go. This is all bad news for the White House.
All right, speaking of Clintons, let's play a clip from Hillary Clinton commenting on the London attacks in an event Monday night.
This is a time for us to reach out to the world, to understand more about what is happening, not just in our own country, but indeed across the globe. It's a time for steady, determined leadership, like we are seeing from local authorities in London, including the mayor of London. This is not a time to lash out, to incite fear, or to use tragedy and terror for political gain. Now, normally this would go without saying, but we are not living in normal times.
All right, so Molly, this is interesting. Some Democrats are critical of Hillary Clinton because they say she's been too vocal a critic of the president and overshadowed other Democrats. What do you think about that?
That was what was going through my head when I was listening to that clip. Because there are Democrats on the Hill who just want Hillary Clinton to go away, and that's the only way that I can say it. I mean, there are younger Democrats who are trying to make a name for themselves. Even the Bernie Sanders of the world, he's not necessarily younger, but he's a more fresh face with a different perspective that's ignited a base that Hillary Clinton did not ignite, and did not incur the genuine support of. And so this is just basically taking the oxygen out of the room and stealing the spotlight from other Democrats who want to be having more of a say on the national political level.
I'm curious though, Molly, so these Democrats that you talk to, they feel that as long as she's in the spotlight, other Democrats then are just going to be reticent to come and basically elaborate or repeat some of the things that she said.
Well, it's not even necessarily that they're reticent. It's just that she takes the attention, so they don't have a chance to shine, so to speak. I mean, and that's the important thing. And she's still out there. And whenever Hillary Clinton is out there, it doesn't matter if she was, Secretary of State, the former First Lady, in all these different roles, controversy has surrounded her fairly or unfairly. And did you hear Richard Burr what he said said in that interview? He said we will be investigating, the Russia collusion of either party, of either campaign team. So I mean, he didn't make it sound like they were just looking into collusion with the Trump campaign, and you sort of left it up to, I'm not saying that there is any collusion with the Clinton campaign, but still, there's just, Democrats would prefer to have the Clintons away from the spotlight right now. I'll just put it that way.
All right, well, finally, Lindsey Graham told Bloomberg News that he believes Congress won't get health care reform done in 2017. We were just talking about this a moment ago. What evidence, Michael, do you think he's seeing on that point?
Probably talking to his fellow senators. Now, they've had this working group that Senator Cornyn was referring to, I think, when he said that they thought they would get something together. Senator Cruz has been involved in it. They've been meeting regularly. But they've got two problems. One is there isn't a unified vision for what to do going forward. You have to have some kind of mega deal. And the other part is that anything that the number of people who are impacted by Obamacare itself is relatively small. Trying to fix health care as a broader issue reaches out into the lives of the vast majority of working Americans who have coverage and those Republicans who are older who are on Medicare. They don't want to see, they're fine with no changes. So it's like you're picking a fight where the people that you care about don't really care how it comes out.
All right, finally, I'm going to get your take on this just in tweet from the president. Just came over. This is what it says. That's right. We need a travel ban, and travel ban is in all caps, for certain dangerous countries, not some politically correct term that won't help us protect our people. Helpful, Molly, you think, in this environment?
That's going to be a question I'm going to ask members of Congress tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure I know the direction my package will take, and the story will go.
Right.
Again, take the Twitter away, take the Twitter away.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, the fact of the matter is, we just had our Paula Reed on talking about the legal difficulties that this presents when you now have a record, a stated record here, which can be used in sort of real time as legal developments are occurring. It can be used in briefs, statements like this, and used against him.
And once again, dumbest fight to pick. The fact is the Supreme Court has ruled on the issue. Does the president have the right to restrict immigration? Is this a part of his executive branch? And the answer is yes. All he needs is a reason that is acceptable on its face. The courts have already said you can't look behind it for what the other motive might be. In other words, all the courts up till now have ignored all the precedent because they hate Trump. He has a chance to go to the Supreme Court and get an old-fashioned legal ruling, and he's doing everything he can to stop that from happening and get politics involved again. I'm with Molly. Take away his cell phone.
Oh, gosh, we will see. The night is young here. We'll see what other tweets we might need to get your take on later.
But then what would we have to talk about?
Well, Molly, I like Molly's idea that Hillary needs to move so we can get those young whippersnappers, Liz Warren and Joe Biden, in the race.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, those
I was
kids.
talking about more like Cory Booker, but hey, I mean, she's been around a long time on TV, so.
Yes, all right. To be continued. Michael Graham and Molly Hooper in Washington, thank you both. Appreciate the insight.
Thank you.